What's going on, guys? Victor here with a brand new video. I'm here to talk about another fight that will be going down this Saturday, UFC 259, and it's another card that's going to be on that main card itself. This fight that I'm going to be talking about is Drew Dober, 23-9, versus Islam Makhachev, who is 18-1, who is the cousin of Khabib Nurmagomedov. Obviously, one of those Dagestani killers, straight from the region of Dagestan in the country of Russia. So obviously something's going to pop up, and if that's something that pops up in your head is going to be wrestling, you're 100% right. Obviously, when it comes to the Dagestani fighters, a majority of them know how to wrestle. It is in their blood, it is in their veins, it is in their brain. All they do is wrestle over there. And not just wrestle, but they also know how to strike as well. But when it comes to this fight, it's a very intriguing one because this is going to be the most difficult opponent in Islam Makhachev's career. Obviously, his last couple of fights have been via decision. He hasn't been able to finish anyone anytime soon, and he's been promising a knockout or submission this fight. He really wants to get that finish because he really wants to crack in to that top five, to that top six in the rankings in the UFC lightweight division. Obviously, both of these fighters are ranked, and both these fighters really want to crack into that top five or six, like I just mentioned. And there's one thing about Drew Dober is that he packs a lot of power. Obviously, he's on a 3-fight win streak. The last guy that he lost against was against Beneil Dariush, who is currently on a tear himself. I believe Beneil Dariush has won 5 or 6 in a row. Obviously, Drew Dober lost that fight via submission. Drew Dober isn't the most BJJ savvy guy, definitely when it comes to the ground, but he's been on a 3-fight win streak, and all 3 of these fights have been finished by KO. Marco Polo Reyes, one of them. Nazareth Haqparast, another one. And then the most recent victim was Alexander Hernandez. He's been able to get all these guys out via TKO/KO, and he's barely been able to take any damage when it comes to those fights. So obviously, Drew Dober is coming in here in a very hot win streak. So is Islam Makhachev as well. Someone's win streak has got to be put to a pause. Someone's win streak has got to be eradicated. And it's definitely going to happen during this fight. If you ask me who has the wrestling advantage, it's definitely going to go to Islam Makhachev just because of where he's from. They all wrestle. Everybody AKA knows how to wrestle. Everybody in Dagestan knows how to wrestle. He wrestles with his cousin Khabib Nurmagomedov, who's arguably one of the best wrestlers that the UFC has ever produced. Also, when it comes to the power, you got to give it to Drew Dober just because he's been knocking guys out left and right for the past 3 fights. When it comes to the speed, I'm going to give it to Islam Makhachev just because when he gets going, when he's heated up, he can move in there. He can fly inside of the octagon. He can fluster you and make you commit mistakes left and right. And that's how he's been able to win the majority of his fights. He's been able to overwhelm his opponents with the speed and with his agility. When it comes to the experience, you obviously got to give it to Drew Dober. Obviously, his record speaks for itself. 23-9, close to 40 fights. My math is pretty bad, but I'm pretty sure that is very close to 40 fights. Then you got Islam Makhachev, who only has 19 fights in his career, 18-1 in total. Obviously, his last loss was against Adriano Martins it was 5 years ago, obviously, so we're in 2021. So, obviously, if you do the math, 2020, 2019, 18, 17, 16, back in 2016, he's been on a win streak ever since. He's been hot ever since. But it's just when it comes to experience is very key, especially when going into very important matchups, especially for the division itself. The lightweight division is the most stacked in UFC, the most stacked in all of mixed martial arts out of every single promotion that is out there. So obviously both these guys are trying to vie for lightweight supremacy, trying to crack into that top 6, top 5. And experience is definitely going to be key, and that's what Drew Dober has. So obviously he's going to be going into that fight with more experience, with more power. And when it comes to the BJJ, I'm going to give it to Israel Makhachev as well. I've seen him on the ground multiple times, and his BJJ is very well rounded, just like his wrestling as well. When it comes to BJJ, I just haven't seen it that much with Drew Dober to give him that advantage right there. So obviously the BJJ advantage goes to Drew Dober. When it comes to the boxing, you obviously got to give it to Drew Dober right there because of just how crisp he is. And if he can find an opening to exploit, he's definitely going to exploit it to the best of his ability and get you out of there as fast as he possibly can. Israel, obviously, he gets a little bit overzealous sometimes, especially when he's trying to go for the finish, and that's what kind of opens him up as well. And he can tend to gas out as well, trying to go for those finishes. And if you ask me who's got the advantage when it comes to the cardio, got to give it to Israel. The guy doesn't tire out at all, especially during his fights. Obviously, he does tend to tire out during the very end, but for all those minutes from the first bell all the way to the last bell, he's usually in there, ready to go. He's usually got plenty of energy to spend until it's crunch time. That's pretty much where everybody's tired. But like I said, it's going to be a very good fight. Obviously, key to the victory for both these fighters. If Israel's going to want to win, he's definitely going to have to put on the pressure. He's going to put on a lot of volume on Drew Dober, put him so much volume that he doesn't know what to do with himself. That he doesn't know how to react back. And I do believe that Israel Makhachev will be able to do that, and I believe he's going to be able to utilize his wrestling as well. Definitely try to pepper him up with a couple of shots, get him against the cage, just like how Khabib usually does with his opponents. Go in for that double leg, dump him, and then just get him against the cage into a position where he won't be able to get back up to finish him via ground and pound. Drew Dober, takedown defense is going to have to be sharp as anything for this fight. He's going to have to make sure that he doesn't get taken down, to make sure that this fight is on the feet no matter what, because that is his bread and butter. It's the boxing, it's the striking, being able to get opponents out of there as fast as he possibly can, and be able to wear them down as well. If I'm Drew Dober, wear Israel down and try to put a little bit of pressure back on him as well. Keep the movement no matter what, and definitely work the feints, work some distraction shots with a jab, try to punch in that 1-2, maybe even a 1 and then a 6 with the uppercut. And then working some leg kicks as well. Leg kicks are definitely going to be key. If I were Drew Dober, stopping the movement of Israel Makhachev is definitely going to be very important. So definitely go in there with some calf kicks. Obviously, Drew Dober's got some very bulky legs, so why not use them to be able to get that victory? Soften them up with some calf kicks, and then work some body kicks in there as well. And try beating Israel in his own game. Try wrestling as well. Obviously, Drew Dober does have some wrestling pedigree that he can be able to bring into this match, and that he will be able to bring into this match. All he has to do is use it, and if I were him, go for that takedown shot first. Surprise Israel. Bring in a couple of surprises that he won't be able to see. Obviously, he fights at a team elevation. His cardio is going to be at its top peak. Both of these guys' cardios are going to be at its top peak, and I believe that Drew Dober will have that extra edge, even though I did say that Israel is definitely going to have more cardio and that I lean more towards him, but Drew Dober is definitely going to have his cardio, and both these guys are definitely going to tire themselves out because there will be a lot of volume, there will be a lot of output during this fight from both fighters. And like I said, Israel, take it to the ground. Drew Dober, keep it on the feet, keep the volume up a little bit, and just match Israel pound for pound for his volume, for his speed, and try to get into his face no matter what. Don't leave any space for that takedown. Just be up in his face, be up in his guard no matter what, and don't leave an ounce of space. You want to be pressuring him no matter what. You want him to commit mistakes. You want him to see something that he's never seen before against all of his other opponents. Obviously, his most impressive fight was against Arman Tsarukyan, who is another UFC lightweight prospect who's definitely on the rise. But like I said, Drew Dober, he's got the power to put out Israel, and Israel's got the power to put Drew Dober out. But if I were Israel, use the wrestling, use your BJJ pedigree, and definitely get him out there with a submission since he's been submitted in the past. And then Drew Dober, keep him on the feet no matter what. If you gotta get him against the fence, get him against the fence, work in some dirty boxing, some foot stomps, some knees to the quads, and even if you have to do it, get some quad kicks in there. Those quad kicks, the muscle that is literally above the knee, those are becoming very, very popular in UFC and all the mixed martial arts. And if you can utilize it, you can definitely immobilize your opponent. So obviously, those are just the key to victories they have for both these fighters. I'm going to go with Drew Dober. I believe he's going to pull off the upset. I believe Israel Makhachev is the minus 355 or minus 360 favorite. So obviously Drew Dober going in there as the underdog, and I think he's going to pull off the upset off in front of Khabib and also in front of the world to see as well, just because of all the eyes are going to be on this UFC pay-per-view. It is very, very stacked. There is a lot of talent, and a lot of people are going to be staying tuned to this main event. So I'm going with Drew Dober, and I believe he's going to pull it off via decision, and I believe it's going to be a close fight, so split decision. Appreciate you guys for watching this fight. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the fights on the card, and I will be pulling off another video after this one before I go to sleep tonight. So, later, guys.